The most frequently asked question I get asked about my Romeo is, can I do that with my Cricut? Let's talk about it. It's Romeo Wednesday, and y'all gonna put some respect on this name. Hello everyone, and welcome to Crafting with Delonda. It's me again, Delonda, and thank you so much for joining me today. Today, I am going to be answering the 10 most frequently asked questions I get about Siser Romeo. Every Wednesday when I say it's Romeo Wednesday, the first or second question I get about any project is, can I do that with my Cricut? We are going to go through all 10 questions, and hopefully you will find this helpful. I want you to leave your question if I don't answer it below the video, and let me know what you think about my top 10 questions. Now, if you do find all of this helpful, remember to like the video, subscribe to this channel, and turn on the bell for notifications because I do upload new content every single week. Now, without further ado, let's just go ahead and dive right in to the first question, which is, can I do that with my Cricut? The answer to that is yes. Everything I've ever done with my Siser Romeo, I've also done it with my Cricut. And in most cases, I've done it first with my Cricut. As a matter of fact, when I make a tutorial about my Siser Romeo or using my Siser Romeo, one thing I try to do, and I haven't always been successful at that, but one thing I always try to do is leave the Cricut tutorial link below that specific video. Okay, so anything you've ever seen me do with my Siser Romeo can be done with a Cricut. Now, they might not all be done with a Cricut Explore Air 2, like the engraving. However, I've done that too. But for the most part, I would say 99.92% of the things I've done with my Siser Romeo has also been done with my Cricut. Let's move on to the next question. The second question I get asked a lot is, how big can it cut? So the Siser Romeo is a really big cutting machine. And one thing that sets it apart from most other cutting machines is that it can cut really big. It can cut up to 23.6 inches wide, which is right at 60 centimeters. So in one tutorial, when I was making an outdoor rug or an outdoor mat, I demonstrated that I used a Cricut Venture mat to go through my Siser Romeo. So if you can see, this Cricut Venture mat is actually 24 by 28, 24 inches wide and 24 inches long. This will go through my Siser Romeo with no problem. Look at this. Okay, you can see I'm fitting the mat through there, and if I were to lock the wheels, I can let this mat roll through my Siser Romeo with no problem. So let me just give you a little quick demo of it rolling through. It's hard for me to see. See that? So it is massive, and it will actually cut vinyl or your material up to 23, like right at about 23.5 inches wide. All right, let's move on to question number 3. So the third question I get asked a lot is it faster than the Caesar Juliet? And honestly, I don't have a Caesar Juliet, but the answer to that is no. The Siser Romeo and the Caesar Juliet can go up to the same speed. The software is the same. It functions the same. The only difference between the Siser Romeo and its companion, the Caesar Juliet, is that the Caesar Juliet is actually smaller and it costs less. So whereas this cuts up to 23.6 inches in width, the Caesar Juliet, which is a smaller cutter, will cut a smaller width of materials. Okay, let's move on to question number 4. I would say this question is almost up there with, can I do this with my Cricut? But I do get asked this question a lot. How big can it print then cut? Well, one thing to note is that Caesar calls their operation print and cut. Print then cut are Cricut's terms. So when you're looking at print and cut with a Caesar cutter, you would be amazed to find out that your Caesar Romeo or Juliet will cut as big as your printer will print. So for example, if I have a printer that goes up to 8.5 by 14, that means I can change my material size to 8.5 by 14, which will give me a larger cutting area. If I'm using a printer, for example, like an Epson EcoTank 15,000, which you know prints up to 13 by 19, I can change the size of my materials right inside the software, the Leonardo Design Studio software, and that will allow for a bigger cutting area, which is phenomenal. Now, I don't have the exact measurements because it also depends on what you're cutting, but I do know that you get a much wider, a larger cutting area because it's not just based on the size of the machine. It's really based on your printer. Okay, so it can do much bigger print and cut, and the calibration of the machine is so easy. I will make sure to leave a link below where I demonstrated how to calibrate your machine. Question number 5, can it engrave acrylic? So now this is a newer change because when I first got my Siser Romeo last year, I actually got this in July of 2023. At that time, it was not able, they didn't have the capability to engrave acrylic or do some of the other things that a Cricut can do. However, Caesar just released 2 new tools. One of them is called the Easy Etch tool, so you can etch acrylic, and the other tool is called the Easy Crease. As you can see, my Easy Crease is still in the package. I have not used it yet, but I will be doing that soon. I'm not much of a cardstock crafter, so that's why I haven't used this yet. However, so I recently used the Easy Etch tool to engrave this acrylic blank right here. And I demonstrated the full process in a tutorial that I will also leave linked below this video. Let's move on to our next question. Now, I kind of grouped these next 3 questions together because they're all related to software. So the first question I get about software is, will I need to learn new software? And my answer to that is, unfortunately, yes. So throughout this process of me using my Siser Romeo every week with Romeo Wednesday, I have had to learn how to use the software. I would say that of all the different types of software that I am familiar with, it's most comparable to Silhouette Studio, the basic edition of Silhouette Studio. So a lot of the terminology within Leonardo Design Studio is very similar to what I've seen in Silhouette Studio. So there will be a learning curve if all you've ever used is Cricut Design Space. However, if you know a little bit about Silhouette Studio and some of the basic terminology, you will not have a problem. I had a problem because all I really knew was Cricut Design Space. So yes, you will need to learn new software. Another question I get about the software is, how much does the software cost? You have 2 options. There is a monthly fee that you could just go month to month and you can cancel it at any time, or you can pay the yearly fee. And when you do that, you do get, I think, a 10% discount. But Caesar also right now at the time of this recording, they do have a partnership with Creative Fabrica, and you would have to look more into that if you purchased a new Caesar Romeo or Juliet. I think the software right now, as of May 1st, 2024, is less than $10. So that's already cheaper than a lot of the other software programs I know. And it's even less than that if you get the annual subscription. Okay, here's another question I get asked a lot. This is probably the most popular software question I get is, can I create in Leonardo Design Studio and then bring the design into Cricut Design Space? And the answer to that is kind of no. If you are using the pro version of the software, then yes, you can, because you'll have the option to save your files as SVGs. And then of course you can upload them into Cricut Design Space. However, Leonardo Design Studio does come with a free 7-day trial. I'll make sure to leave a link to the free trial below, and you can check it out and see if you like it and kind of navigate. Now you'll just be able to play around with it and kind of look at the terminology if you are considering getting a Caesar Romeo or Caesar Juliet. That way you'll know kind of how to use it, and then you can make a decision on whether or not you want to keep it. However, remember, you would just be getting a free trial of the basic edition of Leonardo Design Studio, but the pro version, that is where you get really the bang for your buck and a lot of really, really nice features that are not available in Cricut Design Space. I'm just being honest. Okay, let's move on to our last 2 questions. We are at the end, and I hope you're finding this helpful. And if I haven't answered the question you have, make sure you leave it linked below this video. Let's keep going. All right, so another question I get is, how is it different from a Cricut? So it depends. You know, if you have a Cricut Joy, which I don't currently own, I really can't answer that other than to say it's about 5 times bigger. How is it different than a Cricut Explore Air 2? It's a bigger machine. How is it different from a Cricut Maker? It's bigger. Here is where my opinion is about to come into play. I like to give that disclaimer. It's faster, it's quieter, it's more precise. You have more flexibility with materials. You have flexibility with the software. You're not limited to just placing, you know, your mat or your materials in one place on the machine. I can use Cricut mats with this machine. I can also cut matte or with the mat or matless. So I don't have a differentiation between having one machine or another. And you can do that with the Siser Romeo or Caesar Juliet. When I'm cutting rhinestone templates, this is my absolute go-to, and I love that. There are a lot of built-in features in Siser Romeo. It does have what I call my top 5 favorite things. I made a video about that. I will make sure it's linked below the video, but I will say that my favorite, probably 2 of my very, very favorite things about Siser Romeo that really make it stand out and different from using a Cricut is the test cut feature. I love that. I love the test cut. I can insert something right now here and do a test cut. As a matter of fact, let me just show you what that looks like. I'm just going to put a piece of paper right here. I'm going to lock the wheels. I can just put the paper in anywhere. I'm going to move the blade over, and I am going to do a test cut just so you can see what that looks like. You see, I'm not in the software or anything. I'm just going to click the little t-shirt button, and it's going to give me a little test cut, and you can see what that looks like. All right, let's take this out and see. So here's my, let's see if you can see it. Let's see if you can see it. Let's see if you can find it. Oh, it's right here. So that lets me know that my cut setting was not deep enough, right? So I could cut this again and not waste material. I know you really can't see it very well. Hopefully you can see it right there. I'm not having to waste vinyl or cardstock or other materials to find the perfect cut setting, because I can just test cut right there on the spot without having to upload a design. I love that. And within the software, there's something called an area test. I love that too, because it's like it is like a print preview basically, and it lets you know if you have your designs in the right place for it to be cut on the mat. So I love that. All right, we are at the last question, which is, what do I love about Siser Romeo? Well, I kind of just told you 2 things that I love, but there are so many things that I love about it. I love the flexibility, like I've already stated. Like I said, I made a video about my top 5 favorite things that I love about Siser Romeo. And I love the fact that they're adding new tools every day. I love that the cut settings for most of, or really for all of the Caesar materials are already built into the machine. So there's no guesswork about what's the pressure and force for glitter vinyl, what's the pressure and force for Aurora, what's the pressure and force for Easy Weave, what's the pressure and force for Caesar Easy Subly. All of that is actually already built into the machine. So I can just go to that exact cut setting and I can get it going with my machine. I love that. So hopefully you have found this helpful. If you did, remember to like the video, subscribe to this channel, and turn on the bell for notifications because I upload new content every week. I also make sure to do Romeo Wednesday every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. And if you have missed anything, or if this is your first time, make sure you go back and look at my Siser Romeo playlist, because I have tried to demonstrate all the things that I've done so far from using my Cricut. I've been bringing it over slowly but surely over to my Siser Romeo. Make sure you leave me a comment below and let me know if this was helpful for you, and I will see you in the next Romeo Wednesday. Bye.